Hey there. So in this video, I will be creating a directory/programmatic SEO website using Webflow completely no code. Now, if you're watching this video, you might be interested in creating a directory either as a side project or as a method of growing your existing business. And the great news is that directories are great for both. So I actually built a directory about 2.5 years ago called Breweries Nearby. So it's a directory for craft beer breweries. So it took me about a week to build, and then I eventually released it to the world and haven't touched it since. So the results were pretty outstanding though. So if we just jump over to Google Search Console, you'll see that during a 1-year period from October 2023 to 2024, there was almost 2 million impressions and over 20,000 clicks. And I think during the best 1-year period, there was over 30,000 clicks and over 2 million impressions. So it's really crazy to see that it was getting this much traffic for only 1.5 thousand indexed pages within a year of launching it. And yeah, this really just illustrates how powerful of a passive growth mechanism directories/programmatic SEO can be. So unfortunately, this didn't last forever. So if we just look at the last 16 months, there's been an obvious dip in traffic here. And yeah, I think the lack of attention I've been giving this site has kind of finally caught up to me. So later on in the video, I will highlight how you can capitalize on this traffic and monetize your directory, and also how you can keep growing your traffic up and to the right. Now, before getting started, I just wanted to highlight what the setup is for the breweries website and just go over what programmatic SEO is. So first off, what I did is I just looked into a few different niches that were interesting to me. I did some keyword research and ultimately decided on breweries. And what I ended up doing is I found kind of a yellow pages directory with really bad SEO that I scraped in order to get all of the breweries in North America. And I ended up structuring this data in an Airtable base. And using Airtable's lookup field, I was able to reference the main breweries table to different locations. And then I ended up building the site in Webflow, including a CMS that matches the structure of the Airtable base one-to-one inside of Webflow. And then what I ended up doing is using a tool called WhaleSync to import all of the data in bulk. And then through Webflow's collection template pages, I was able to create thousands of pages of content for different brewery pages, and then also pages targeting keywords for breweries in X city or location. So if you're unfamiliar with how a CMS works, I will provide a link in the description that goes into more detail. But this is kind of the idea of programmatic SEO here. So basically, it's a method for creating content or pages of content in bulk, targeting long tail keywords with high variability. So these are some examples with long tail keywords with many potential variations. So location is a super common one. I mean, TripAdvisor and Yelp have been making an absolute killing just targeting these location-based keywords for the past 20 years. So yeah, targeting cost of living in location. So that's something nomads.com is doing well, or crime rate in location. And then another interesting one that you can look at for inspiration is Failery. So they're targeting best startup resource. So this can be something like accelerators, venture capital firms in a certain location. So they're less of a directory. They're more creating listicle articles in bulk using programmatic SEO, but still a very interesting example. Then there's the breweries one. Then another one that's pretty common is building a directory for software. So targeting best type of software for whatever niche. So AI tools, no-code tools. I will kind of highlight this later, but I wouldn't build a software directory. It's pretty saturated, but if you do it well, there is pretty huge potential, especially with partnerships and affiliate links and direct advertising. So like software here, you don't always have to target location-based keywords. So one other interesting example could be something like retro games. So you could have two different variations here where it's the genre games for whatever retro game console. So N64, Sega Genesis, etc. So hopefully that kind of gives you a brief understanding of what this is. Then also for the brewery sites, I just wanted to highlight quickly that most of my traffic is coming from keywords for breweries in X location. But I'm also getting traffic for additional long tail variations. So dog-friendly breweries in X location, breweries with food in X location, and then I also have this additional little FAQ here about how many breweries there are in each city, which also does pretty well. Now, the reason this is super powerful is because I was able to generate thousands of pages of SEO-friendly content in a matter of seconds just from basically a spreadsheet in Airtable, instead of needing to manually write articles or editorial content for each individual page. So if we just take a look at the breweries Vancouver search term here, this here is an example of an editorial article. I don't know if they use ChatGPT or if they actually manually wrote this article themselves, but this page here, I'm currently ranking third for this keyword for breweries Vancouver. This was created in a matter of seconds. So I know this might not seem like an extremely high amount of traffic, but acquiring this traffic through paid ads would probably cost thousands of dollars. So in my opinion, directories are a super awesome side project to build because of this level of passive growth that can be achieved. Once you're getting tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of organic clicks a month, there are many things you can do to capitalize and monetize the traffic. Okay, so now let's get the ball rolling on the actual development. So the first step is probably the most important, and that is to pick a niche. So I've already picked one, so I'm going to be building a directory for dog breeders. And these are some of the other ones that I considered. So I'm just going to briefly highlight what my thought process was for choosing this niche, so you can apply that to deciding on a niche of your own for your directory. So it all started with brainstorming, of course. I used Claude for a few of these. As I'll highlight throughout the video, these tools like Claude, ChatGPT are your best friend for building a directory. Now, the first one I looked into was for saunas and cold plunges. And the reason I was super interested in this one is, first of all, I've been to Finland like 20 times. So, big sauna culture over there. And I love going to the sauna. And this is also an emerging trend in North America. So many Scandinavian saunas with cold plunges or ice baths are popping up all over North America and major cities. So first off, I just went to SEMrush. You could also use Ahrefs, but SEMrush has a free trial. And then also after your free trial expires, you can do 10 keyword lookups per day. So first off, I just searched saunas near me. So you don't always have to target a location-based keyword, as I mentioned over here. But the great thing about location-based keywords is that there are so many variations that you can target. Whereas something like Nocode tools, there's probably 20 to 30 categories that you can create pages of content for. Okay, so for saunas near me, let's see what this is like. And yeah, this is pretty interesting. So you want to choose a niche with as high of search volume as possible and as low of keyword difficulty as possible. So the other interesting thing about this one, so if anyone wants to build this, feel free to run with it. But the cool thing about this one is there's also types of sauna that can be appended to the front. So that also brings more keyword variability. So gym with sauna, infrared sauna, and yeah, lots of search volume here. And yeah, not a lot of competition. And then also, the other thing that was interesting about this one was that you could also target cold plunge related keywords. Now, plumbers was also an interesting one, and I'll show you why. And I'll touch on this more later on in the video when we talk about monetizing the directory. But it was super interesting just for this keyword here, commercial plumbers near me. So it's relatively, or not the highest level of search volume in the US, but pretty low keyword difficulty. And my assumption here would be that this is pretty high ticket transactional intent here. So if you can be a lead magnet for commercial plumbers, there could be pretty high upside there, even if you're not getting as much traffic as these other niches that I mentioned. But the one that I ended up choosing that really intrigued me was dog breeders, and I'll show you why. So if I just look up dog breeders, you'll see that while the dog breeders near me keyword has high difficulty, it's this part here where the dog breed is added to the front of the keyword that really interested me. So if I just look up a specific breed, so let's just say golden retriever breeders, and then don't have to add on the near me part of the keyword, you can see what the keyword potential is for state specific search terms. So not the near me search term, but people looking up golden retriever breeders, Florida, Colorado, Georgia, etc. So all of these have over 1,000 search terms and low difficulty. And yeah, this is looking really awesome. But one more thing I did is I jumped over to Google Ads Keyword Planner. And what I did was I just added the keyword just to see if they could provide any other keyword ideas, and then also potentially provide a more accurate estimate for the monthly traffic. And so it was for the United States here. So I'm just going to add in dog breeders and then dog breeders near me. And then if I click get results, you'll see that the estimated volume for dog breeders near me is way higher. And then, yeah, just dog breeders itself, it's trending. 450,000 searches, which is massive. And also I realized that puppies could be a super interesting alternative search term for what people are looking for. So I've never gone through the process of buying a puppy, but from what I know, usually people will buy a puppy through a breeder, which is why I think this alternative search term is relevant to the breeders one, or the type of directory I would potentially like to build that is one for dog breeders. So if we just jump back to SEMrush and then just type in puppies near me, you can see what the difficulty is like for this. And it's looking pretty good. So yeah, pretty high volume for the different breed variations here. Then I'm also just maybe going to look up an individual breed. Let's just say California. Again, even these little stragglers here are pretty high volume and low difficulty. So I think this is a very promising one. Okay, so that's looking promising. And before picking this niche, there were a couple of additional things I did. First off, I just took a look at what the competition is. So if we just look up golden retriever puppies in a city like San Diego, you'll see that Google's appearing here, but also Reddit's appearing near the top. And then maybe we could just open this up to Los Angeles. So there were two sites that were consistently appearing at the top. So the American Kennel Club, which is a directory for dog breeders. So don't think I'll be able to compete with them, but even just finishing second and third for a set of keywords or niche with this much potential could even just be massive from a traffic standpoint. And then the other one was Good Dog, but I've seen on a few breeders related keywords, they appear a bit lower down. And that's because I think they're more of a marketplace. So the other thing I did was I just did a bit of research on what matters to people that are looking up this search term. So health issues, bad breeding. So I think that's maybe an angle that this site can compete on with the quality of the content. So just highlighting which breeders are ethical or good quality, maybe just sourcing reviews or data from different sources about the legitimacy of different breeders. And also we could just look up maybe some reviews and just look at Reddit here. So yeah, there's some bad reviews for Good Dog, again, about legitimacy or quality of the breeders. I know this is a problem. So a friend of mine actually kind of got scammed buying a dog through Craigslist. Long story short, my friend paid thousands of dollars extra for a dog that she thought was part Aussie. Fast forward a few years after a genetics test, she later found out that the dog was 0% Aussie. So I think this is something that's pretty rampant in the dog breeding space. So that's another thing here. Okay, so the other thing I thought of was, how am I going to monetize this? So I currently work full-time on my own SaaS. That's the reason why I haven't really had any time to work on the breweries site. So with this one, I like it because I think there is potential to get over 100,000 visits per month. And basically with this traffic, I could potentially monetize it through Google Ads and even just get, I don't know, let's see here, up to $3,200 a month passively just from that traffic. So really big upside for advertising revenue from this site. But if you're only going to be getting a couple thousand of visits a month, it might be worth looking into other monetization methods. But some pretty common ones that you can look into or think about early are affiliate marketing, so adding affiliate links to the businesses listed on your directory. Direct advertising and partnerships is also a good one. So building partnerships with the businesses listed on your directory, and then they can just pay you a one-time fee to be promoted or have a higher ranking on your directory. This is pretty common with software directories like MicroLaunch. Then there's a few high effort, high reward monetization methods you could look into. So building a SaaS for your niche if you notice a certain pattern around the traffic that's coming to your website, or if there's any data that you are planning on sharing with your directory that's particularly high effort or requires a bunch of research or isn't publicly available, you could potentially gate that content behind a payment wall and only allow paid subscribers or users that make a one-time payment to be able to access it. Okay, so yeah, I kind of touched on this here. So the monetization methods, and yeah, AdSense is probably the easiest, but maybe the lowest upside. And then there's all of these different high effort, high reward ones. Now, before actually committing to this niche, there was one last thing on my checklist, and that was determining how accessible the data is for this niche. So I did find a few public directories with a bunch of dog breeders on it. I actually didn't end up scraping those directories. They had pretty strict terms of service. Scraping is kind of a legal gray area. So I don't really want to disclose where I got my data from. But yeah, I'll go into more detail on this later on. So just be sure to check that there are good sources of data available, ideally publicly, for whichever niche you're targeting. I'm not going to say what the best way of doing this is. I know a lot of people will, for example, just use a scraper to get data from Google Maps and just repackage it for their own unique angle for creating content. But yeah, I just don't want to get sued. So yeah, sorry I spent so much time on this, but I want to emphasize that this is really the most important part of building your directory. So yeah, I've chosen a niche, and then what I did next is I bought a domain with my keyword in it. So I found dogbreedersnearby.com on GoDaddy. And this isn't an absolute must, but it is usually best if your main keyword is included in the domain. So for example, if you were looking for one for sauna or cold plunge and sauna, you could look that up maybe, see if that's available. Ideally, you might want a .com domain. Another option that I've seen online is buying abandoned or existing domains. I know acquire.com used to have part of their marketplace for people selling domains. And then GoDaddy and other domain providers also have marketplaces for domains on sale. So the idea here is that if you could buy a domain with an already established domain authority, so maybe one that's higher than 30, that will give you such a massive head start for growing your directory. Because as I'll get to later, this is one of the hardest parts about improving your SEO is building backlinks to your website. And by building more backlinks, so other websites that are linking to your website, that can increase your domain authority, which is one of the many factors Google takes into account for how high they rank your content. But yeah, I'll get to that a bit later on, but definitely explore that. I'll provide a link in the description to an article or resource that goes into more detail on this. Okay, so we've bought a domain, and then next we're just going to gather data. Okay, so we can now move on to the next step, which is probably the hardest, and that is to gather the data. So I'm not going to show you how I actually acquired this initial set of data just to stay out of trouble. But I will show you how you can scrape on my brewery's website, just so I'm not leaving you hanging. Again, just kind of look into the legal aspect of scraping, or also just check the terms and conditions of whatever website you're scraping, just to make sure it's not strictly prohibited. But before showing you scraping, one other method that might be interesting is using a tool like ChatGPT or Claude. So for this example here, I just asked Claude for a list of retro video games with a bunch of different attributes related to retro video games. And yeah, it ended up providing me with a pretty comprehensive comma-separated list of data that could basically be used for the foundation of a directory website for retro video games. And you can ask it to keep on going. And it also provides suggestions. So I tried asking Claude for a list of dog breeders, and it ended up making up a bunch of dog breeders that don't exist. So definitely was not a viable source of data for the dog breeders niche. So if you do end up trying this, just make sure to double check that the data is accurate. And then another thing you could do if there are no scrapable sources is that you could hire a professional data entry specialist from Upwork. And you can usually do that for pretty cheap. Okay, so let's jump into scraping here. So there are two tools that you could potentially use. The first I am going to show you is called Browse AI. So this is easily the most user-friendly no-code scraper that I've found. So I'll just add this one here, or let's just go to a certain location. So let's do San Diego. So I'm just going to copy this URL here and then start training it. And I'm just going to use the Chrome extension. And then what I can do is I actually just want to get the data that's inside of these different pages. So go through the entire list here and then get all of the data on the second page here, which is the breweries page. So I'll just quickly show you this here. Okay, so I just jumped back to Browse AI and I'm just going to click this little guy here. So if the set of data doesn't require you to go to an internal page, you can also use this method of capturing from a list here. But yeah, I'll just show you how this works for the brewery site where there's more data on internal pages. So first off, I'm just going to click on the link block element, and then I'm just going to click on this here, and then maybe click again, and then that's how I'll capture the text link. And if I also wanted the location attributes, I could just click on these. So I'm just going to press enter now. So this is the name of brew, and then link of brew. And then, yeah, that's basically all I need now. And then I just need to capture the list. I'm just giving a name as D. Okay, so I'll just click finish recording here. And then it should provide a list of breweries. And then, yeah, here's the list. Now, if I just jump back to the brewery site, so this is the internal page where we're going to extract all of the data. And then, yeah, if we just go back to Browse AI, which, by the way, I will provide a link in the description too. So if we just go back to the homepage, we can add another robot here. And then we can just make it extract site data again. And then I'm just going to paste this internal page here and then use the extension. And then now I can get started capturing all of the different pieces of data I would like to gather. So website, you can also get the link here, address, date established, this description here, and then maybe some famous beers, and then, yeah, average rating, etc. So yeah, once that's done, you can just press enter, and then we have to give all of these names. Okay, so now that I've done that, I can just click finish recording, and then I'll just click save. And there you go. So now this is kind of where it gets interesting. So this is how we're going to set up the internal linking part for the San Diego list that I just extracted. Oh yeah, so I just have to click, yes, it looks good here. It's kind of hidden. Okay, so first off, I'm just going to download this list of breweries here in San Diego, and then download the CSVs. Okay, so if we just go back to Browse AI, I'm just on the robot for the breweries page, and then I'm also on the tables tab. So now I'm just going to import the list of San Diego breweries that we just scraped and got the links for. So I just decreased the amount in this list just so I don't go over my free trials usage limits. But yeah, let's just see this in action now. So I'm just going to select the original column, and that's link of brew. So this is the one with all of the links. And then I'm just going to click start extracting data. And as you can see, this scraping tool has extracted all of the brewery details for the first 10 from our list in San Diego. So that's one way of doing this. Yeah, not going to wait around for these. Another tool that is useful and is also no code, but maybe has a bit more of a learning curve, is Octoparse. So you can set up custom tasks if you are scraping a website. And then there's all of these different templates for scraping well-known sites or tools like Google Maps, LinkedIn, YouTube. So yeah, won't spend too much time on that, but definitely check it out. I'll provide a link to Octoparse in the description as well. Now, the next part is probably my least favorite part about creating a directory, and that is refining the data. So in my case, I acquired a data set where breeders appear multiple times. So similar to the breweries project, I would only like there to be one record per business. So what I ended up doing is I used Claude to provide me with a bunch of different Google Sheets formulas just to filter out the data a bit. I'm not going to show you what I did because I don't want to bore you, and it really varies on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes you might scrape or acquire a set of data that is perfect and ready to be imported into your project. But for my case, I just did a few rounds of filtering just to better structure the data for when I actually import it into my Airtable Base and then eventually my Webflow project. So speaking of Airtable, the next step is to add the data into Airtable. And speaking of Airtable, the next step is to add all of this data into Airtable. So we're just going to jump over to Airtable and create a new base from scratch. And in case you're unfamiliar with Airtable, it's basically a spreadsheet on steroids where it can act like a relational database. So what this is enabling is for us to be able to create content targeting all of the different variations. So you could technically just import data from a single spreadsheet into Webflow and just have a basic directory like this where all of the businesses are being listed in a collection list element, but you wouldn't be able to have this kind of cross-referencing functionality where you're able to create pages for individual locations. And also in the case of my example, creating individual pages for breeds where all of the dog breeders for a certain breed are being filtered on the page. So as you can see here with this breweries project, for the Airtable base that I created, there's multiple spreadsheets. So one for cities, regions, and countries, and then the main table for breweries. And then using Airtable's connect/reference field, we are able to connect each individual brewery to a certain location in different tables. And that's what's allowing us to have this set up here where we're able to have different pages for each location where the relevant breweries for each location is being filtered on the page. So this will make sense once we get started creating the Airtable base, but the general idea here is that you want to have one table for whichever keyword you're targeting, and then for any variations of the keyword. So location can be broken down into city, neighborhood, state, country, like I did here. But basically, you're just going to want to have separate tables for each variation. So for the dog breeders example, I will have separate tables for city, state, and country, and then also a separate table for dog breed. Okay, now I think we can get started importing this data into Airtable. So if we just jump over to Airtable, there's this base here for dog breeders. So this is the main set of data that I acquired and structured into a spreadsheet. And it's also the main keyword that I'm targeting. So similar to the breweries project, this is kind of going to be my primary table that connects to other data sets. So now what I'm going to do, and this is just a small hack, but to save myself time manually creating all of the individual columns inside of Airtable, I'm just going to copy the first two rows here from my spreadsheet, download as a CSV, and then if I just jump over to Airtable, I'll just create or import this data from a CSV. And then, we can just maybe create a new table. I'll just delete the other one. And then we just have to change the field types here. So just going to change these ones to single line text because these aren't paragraphs. This one can be a URL, the website of the breeders, and this one is a phone number. These ones are good. And then we can just change this to single line text and then click import. Okay, so now we can just delete this first record. And then I'm just going to delete this previous table that I created and then rename this one to dog breeders. And then I'm just going to get started creating all of the different tables that we would like to reference from the dog breeders collection. So the first one will be for city, and then I'll just create one for state/province. And then I will create another one for country, and then one more for dog breed. And then if I just jump over to the breeders table, you'll notice that there are these different columns here. So one for breeds, and then one for country, city, and state. So these are currently just basic text fields, but in order to enable this functionality here where we're able to connect certain records to records from other collections, we're just going to change this to a link to another record field, and then we're just going to select the other table that we would like to link to. So for my set of data, you'll see that certain breeders have multiple breeds inside of the breeds column that are comma separated. And that's because certain breeders might sell multiple breeds. So we're just going to allow this one to link to multiple records and skip that. And then we can do the same thing for country. So link to another record, and then we can just switch this off and skip it, and then we can just repeat the same process for city. Link to another record, so that's city. Switch this off, skip, and then same thing for state. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can just copy and paste this spreadsheet into Airtable. And I'll show you why I prefer to copy and paste instead of importing a CSV, but there is a limit to the amount of rows you can paste into an Airtable base. So I'll just take the first 3,000 approximately, and then just copy from row 2 to there. Then I'll just copy while excluding the first row. And then if I just jump over to Airtable, I can just paste this data in by pressing Control or Command V. And then I'll show you what happens. So this might take some time. Okay, so all the data is now inside of our Airtable base. So I'll just refresh the page here because it looked like some sort of error happened. And then before I lose track, I'm just going to paste in the remaining data, and then I'll break down what happened from pasting all of this data. So let's just grab the remaining set, and then if we just jump back and go to the bottom row here and then press paste again, you'll see that the remaining data gets added. Another error notice is appearing here. But so what's happening here is that instead of us needing to go to the dog breed table and then just add every single dog breed from this spreadsheet, maybe we would use some filtering function here or pivot table just to get all of the uniques. It just speeds up the process a bit and automatically creates all of the records from the data that's being pasted in here. And then if one of your linked fields is allowing linking to multiple records, just make sure the data in that column is comma separated, like in my example here, if you're going to paste into your Airtable base. So it also did the same for countries, cities. So if we just jump over to cities, you'll see that all of the records for cities have been created, and then also the same thing for state/province. Okay, so one thing I noticed about this data set that isn't the best is that most of the cities in the city collection are ones I've never heard of. No offense to any of these towns and cities here, but if we just look up Tiverton population, for example, it says here, well, this is in Canada, so maybe, yeah, the one in Rhode Island is 16,000 people. So if we just look up Tiverton dog breeders in SEMrush, you'll see that there's 0 search volume for that search term. So that's not the best. And I think, yeah, my data set isn't lying. It's probably providing the actual town and city that some of these breeders are in. And all of the breeders that I know of from my part of the world are kind of out in the boonies and very rural areas. And yeah, usually people are kind of willing to travel within their state or province or to neighboring ones in order to get a dog from a breeder. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to group all of these breeders into nearby major/larger cities that are likelier to get a higher search volume for my keyword. So first off, I'll just create a table here for major cities. So I ended up trying to ask Claude to group all of these cities into nearby major cities. Okay, so let's see what it provides here. So I just asked it to provide a list of cities with over 200,000 people in one column and then the state in the second one. Okay, so it was pretty annoying. It didn't really provide me with a CSV file. It just kind of provided me with comma separated data. So I can just ask it, can you structure this into a TXT file? Okay, so I guess they're kind of just leaving us hanging. So if we just jump over to a text editor app, we can just do it ourselves. So I'll just go to text edit, just import a random file here, just delete this, and then save. So unfortunately, importing a CSV when there's a link field doesn't really work. So I'll just, again, import here into Google Sheets. And then I'm just going to, again, copy and paste the spreadsheet data, and then it should link to the states inside of this major cities table. So now we'll have the ability to create pages for dog breeders in X major city, and then we can also create a page for dog breeders in a certain state, and then we're just going to ignore all of these smaller cities. And then, yeah, maybe we can also create a page for countries. Okay, so now that we have imported all of the data into Airtable and then created different tables for the different variations of our keyword and created relationships across different tables inside of Airtable, we can get started with the fun part, which is building the website in Webflow and also the CMS structure. And then after, we can get started importing all of this data into Webflow. Now, you might be wondering why I'm choosing Webflow over other website development tools. And aside from the design flexibility that Webflow offers, that is really unparalleled compared to other website development tools, in my opinion, I have a pretty strong hunch that one of the main reasons my brewery site grew so passively is because of how good Webflow's technical SEO is. So, of course, you still have to follow best practices. It's really up to you as the user to do that, which I did a pretty good job at doing. So, good internal linking, good header structure, etc. But Webflow really does a lot of the heavy lifting for you from a technical SEO standpoint. So, providing things like good code, fast loading websites, no need to install different plugins to achieve things like minifying HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This is all built in and comes out of box with Webflow. So instead of you needing to do a bunch of work in order to optimize your site with different technical SEO requirements, Webflow does a lot of the heavy lifting for you again. So, I haven't really looked into how good the technical SEO is for Framer, WordPress, Lovable Dev, but I just know that Webflow is extremely good for this. Don't use a tool like Bubble. So Webflow does have a few limitations, which I'll get to later. One of the big ones is that it does have a maximum CMS item limit of 20,000. So, for example, if I were to create pages for over 20,000 dog breeders, I would have to likely upgrade to their enterprise plan, which can cost thousands of dollars a month. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But without further ado, let's get started with building the site. So one of the things I regret about this brewery site is that I developed everything from scratch. Now, it looks okay. I'm not the best designer in the world, and this really helped improve my design skills building it from scratch. But that's where I spent most of my time. But one thing I realized is that there are many awesome directory templates out there. Some of them are even for free. So if I just search directory website Webflow, and then go to the Webflow showcase, and then just toggle on this switch here, you'll see that there are a bunch of really well-designed directories that can be cloned for free. So one I really like and that I'm considering using for this site that kind of has a playful design that I think might work for dog lovers is this site here. So completely free to clone in Webflow. So yeah, as you can see, there's a wide range of directory clonables that can be used for a pretty wide range of niches. So this one here could be used for recipes. This one here could be used for events, and maybe one of these could be used for software. So lots of interesting ones to explore, and this will just really speed up the development process. Now, if you're okay with paying a bit of extra money, you can also buy a template from Webflow's template marketplace. So if I just search directory, you'll see that there are a bunch of premium ones here, ranging from $50 to $130. Some are even, well, that's not a directory there, but yeah, if we just take a look at this one, for example, looks pretty darn nice. And this is just going to save you so much time building the actual website. And I think it's well worth it to buy one or just clone one of these free ones from the Webflow showcase. However, completely up to you. If you do, you can use these clonables here as inspiration just to understand how they are built. And then I'll also provide a link to the preview project for my brewery site in the description, so you can also just get an idea of how this was built. But yeah, if we just take a look in here, you can see all of the different intricacies of each directory website in the Webflow showcase or the template marketplace. But I'm actually just going to use one from the Webflow showcase that is free to clone. And I think I'm going to use this one. This one is really amazing. I can't believe this agency's giving it away for free. Big thanks to them. So first off, I'm just going to click clone in Webflow and then click create site. And then I'm just going to call this dog breeders nearby. Okay. Okay, so we've successfully cloned the template from the Webflow showcase, so we can get started adapting the design of all of the different elements. Now, for this configuration, first off, I'm just going to create a CMS collection for every single table inside of my Airtable base. Maybe not for this one with all the towns. I'm just going to skip that one for now. So first off, I'll just create a collection for breeders. Just call it breeders. And then I'll create another one for dog breed. Maybe just call this breeds. And then can create one for cities. Now, after creating the collections, what you would usually do is start creating custom fields for every single field from your Airtable base, just to enable that one-to-one relationship between Airtable and Webflow. And then what you would usually do next is use a tool like Zapier or WhaleSync. So WhaleSync is probably the easiest method for bulk importing data from Airtable to Webflow. And then you can also enable two-way sync functionality. But there is a method that I feel goes underrated sometimes for programmatic SEO, and that is to simply export all of the data from your different Airtable tables and then import the CSVs into their relevant CMS collections. So this actually works quite well, and I'll show you this in action. So what I would recommend, instead of first importing the data for the table that is referencing the other tables, so in my case, the dog breeders table, I would actually create the CMS items or import all of the different tables that are being referenced. So first off, for countries, I'm just going to manually add this since there's only one to start. So United States. And then I will actually update this in the country collection. And then I can get started adding in all of the different regions. So let's export this. So in order to do this, you're just going to go to this area here. It says grid view, and then click download CSV. And then once that's done, we can just jump over to the Webflow collection for regions and then import our CSV. And just click continue. So as you can see, Webflow automatically maps the fields from our CSV to different fields in this CMS collection. Since this CMS collection is super basic, it's just matching name to name. So we can now import all 56 regions here. So as you can see, CMS items have been created for every row in our CSV. So now if we just jump over to cities, this is a little bit different since we are referencing the state collection inside of the major cities collection. So first off, we're just going to create a reference field here for regions. We can just call it regions ref. And then if we click save collection, we can get started importing this. Okay, now I think we can get started bulk importing our first set of data, starting off with the regions collection. So if we just jump over to Airtable, to the state/province one, we can then go over to the grid view and then click download CSV. One addition I made is that I just added an additional link to field to connect each individual state/province to a country. And so now if I just jump over to Airtable, to the regions collection, I can just click import and then drag the CSV file that I just downloaded and then click yes, this is a header, continue. And then as you can see, it automatically maps the name field to the name field in the CMS collection for regions. And then for this one here for country, what we can do is we can select create new field and then select reference field, and then we can connect it to the country's collection. So now if we just click import 56 regions, then click close, as you can see, all of the data from this state/province table has been imported and new CMS items have been created for them. And then if we just take a look inside of each item, you'll see that the different countries from this collection for countries are being referenced in each CMS item. So this will come in handy for internal linking and things like breadcrumbs, which I will show you later. Now we can get started importing all of the cities data. So let's do that. So if I just jump over to the major cities collection, and again, just go to grid view, download CSV, and then select import, and then just drag this in, click continue. Then again, we're just going to create a new field to match up with the setup in Airtable. So this is a link to field to the regions table. So we're just going to do the same thing in Webflow. Then we can just select the regions table and import all 239 cities. And as you can see, CMS items have been created for every single record from our Airtable base, and then also the relevant states are being referenced from the regions collection. Okay, now we can get started with the dog breeds collection. So let's just jump over to the dog breed table. Just going to repeat the same process and then just going to import all of the data here. And then for this one, we don't need to reference another collection. So yeah, we have 75 breeds that we're importing. So yeah, that's looking good right now. So this is one of the reasons why I like importing data from a CSV. I'm not sure if WhaleSync can do this, but basically this just saves us a lot of time having to create each individual custom field manually in the Webflow CMS collection, especially for CMS collections with many fields. So first off, I'm just going to select create new field, and this one is going to be a multi-reference to the dog breeds collection. And you can kind of just scroll through here, make sure everything is connecting properly. So as you can see, this breeder here is being connected to multiple breeds in the multi-reference. Okay, so now this one can just be a text field for the address. Then this one will be another reference field, but a single reference field to countries. And then this one, we're just going to skip this one because this is the field for the smaller cities. So if we just jump back to Webflow now. Okay, so now if we jump back for the state, we are just going to connect this to the state or regions field as a reference. Then this one can be a link for the website. This one can be a phone field. Then this can be a number for longitude and latitude. And this can be a text field. Then I will make this a text field as well. Then last but not least, for the major cities, we're going to make this a multi-reference as well and connect it to the cities collection. Oh, not countries, cities. There we go. So we can take a look at what this setup looks like. So as you can see, this breeder is connected to many major cities and will likely appear on their individual pages for breeders near X city. So, okay, so now we can get started importing all of the breeders. Okay, now if we take a look at the breeders collection, you'll see that CMS items have been created for every single breeder that I imported in the CSV. Okay, now I will just export the data for New York, and then I'm just going to do the same thing as well for this set of data. So I will import it into a spreadsheet, and then after doing this, I will just make sure that I'm removing any commas and replacing them with semicolons for the multiple record linking fields. So I think it was just for these two breeds. So comma, find and replace with a semicolon. And then just going to do the same thing for the cities. Okay, there we go. So now if I just download this as a CSV and then just jump over to the Webflow collection for breeders, and then I can just import this CSV that I just downloaded and click continue. And as you can see, this time it automatically maps the CSV fields to the existing CMS fields, except for this one. I don't know why, but I'll just connect it to the name field. So now we can get started importing all of the New York breeders. And there you go. Okay, so we now have a pretty comprehensive set of data that we could create a directory from for multiple cities in New York and California states. So yeah, later on in the video, I will show you how you can bulk update existing CMS items using the CSV import method. And yeah, as you can see, there are a few limitations with the CSV importing method. For example, this step here of adding the data first into a Google Sheet and refining it a bit. But it's kind of a small price to pay, in my opinion, because CSV importing is absolutely free. Okay, so I have now successfully imported all of the breeders in New York into the breeders collection. So we have over 1,000 breeders, and we will create pages of content for only a few cities in California and New York. But I mean, California is a pretty massive state, so we'll have a few pages there. And then we have breeders for every single dog breed. So this is a pretty strong foundation for a directory. Now, one thing I went through the process of doing is I just saved all of the pages I don't really need as drafts. So if we just take a look at this one, what I just did is I just saved it as a draft. The alternative would be to just delete these pages, but I don't really want to delete them because there's some nice components here that I could potentially use for other sections of my directory. But to start out, this will be very basic. So we will just have one main page where all of the breeders are being listed. And then we will have another page, maybe where we can list all of the breeds, and then users can navigate to different breed-specific pages where they can see all of the breeders in the US, or basically all the breeders we have on our listed on our site on this specific page for a specific breed. And then also we can do the same thing for cities. So users can navigate to certain cities pages and see all of the breeders for a certain city. So let's get started doing that. So the navigation will be just pretty simple to start. So you can just make this browse breeders, and then we can kind of deal with this later. Maybe just hide it for now, or we could just feature some breeds here, and I'll show you why this might work later. But if we just jump over to this page now, so in the template that I cloned, this was being used to list agencies. So I just went through the process of deleting all of the elements I don't really need to start out with. So for dog breeders, we only really have 10 fields of data that can be listed with the breeders listings and then also on the breeders page. And then we will also make it so there's a breeders page where users can navigate from a page listing all of the breeders to a page dedicated to a specific breeder where they can learn more about the breeder. So I think we can now get started adapting the design of the template and start pulling in all of the CMS data into the website. So first off, I just adapted the header section here, and I just made it so there's one button, and this will just allow the user to navigate to a page for breeders. So this is currently called partners. So previously, this was a page for listing all of the agencies on the template that I cloned. So we're just going to repurpose this for dog breeders. So yeah, one thing I did is I just went through the process of deleting all of the elements I don't really need. And one other thing I did is I disconnected the CMS fields from the agencies collection from different elements that were kind of pre-binded in the template that I cloned. So usually you can just find these in the side navigator. So these will be the purple elements, and all you have to do is just disconnect them. And then you should be able to go to the collection list elements, and then you can repurpose this collection list and assign it to a different CMS collection. So in my case, I'm just going to reassign this collection list from agencies to breeders. And now I can get started pulling in the data from the breeders collection. So as you can see, the breeders are being listed here. So I can start pulling in other details. So for example, I could just make this category. And of course, I'll probably change the icon here. Then I can make this address. And yeah, since there's not a whole lot of data here, this will be pretty basic to start. So yeah, I'll just change the link settings for this button to current breeder. So this will allow users to navigate to the dedicated page for each breeder. And yeah, that's a pretty strong foundation here. I'll just delete that one since we don't have any email data for the breeders. And yeah, so that's looking pretty good for the page for listing all of the breeders. And then eventually we can maybe add some functionality here to allow users to filter. So I'll touch on that a bit later, what the different tools are that can enable this. So now if we go over to our breeders template page, you'll notice that it's completely empty. So the setup of the template, again, had a list of agencies, and then users were able to navigate to this page here and see all of the details about specific agencies. So we're, again, just going to repurpose this page. And I would also recommend just, again, deleting any elements you don't really need, and then just making sure to disconnect as many properties as you can from their different elements. So now if I just copy this component here, or the page wrapper, and if I go to the breeders template and press Command V or Control V to paste this component into here, you'll see that the design gets carried over, and then we can get started connecting all of the CMS fields from the breeders collection to their relevant elements. So this one here will just be for the name of the breeder. And then we can connect this one to website. Just make sure we are opening in a new tab. We don't have the email, so I'll just keep it hidden. Just make sure this is left aligned. Then not sure what to do with this, so I'll just hide it for now. Then again, we can use this for the category, address. Then we can make this, actually this might work for the category too. And we can just hide this or delete it. And then maybe just hide this for now. Then I'll just hide these rich text elements. Don't think they're really needed. While we don't have that much data about breeders, then this one could be used maybe. Oh, one thing we could also include here is the phone number. So there we go. Again, probably would want to change the icon here. And yeah, we could just potentially use this space to improve the internal linking. So I'll just add a div here, then add a collection list element. Then I'll just connect this collection list element to the breeds collection. So yeah, we can just call this breeds available. So yeah, this is a good use of this space. So we can just use this to show all of the breeds that are sold or available with a specific breeder. So there we go. And I can just add in maybe a text link here just so we can allow users to navigate to the breed pages, which I will show you in a bit. So now we can just get URL or select this one to navigate to current dog breed. Text will be the name of the dog breed. And then we can just make this look more like a link by changing the color, maybe to green, and underline it. Okay, so maybe if I go to another breeder, we might see, yeah, here you go. As you can see, there's multiple breeders being listed here. And yeah, maybe we can just make this a grid. I'll just get rid of that row. Could also just make it 3 so these are closer together, or that looks a little strange. Okay, so let's just keep it like that. And then this one could also be for nearby cities. I don't know why this would be here, but this could be good for improving our internal linking. And that's something I'll get to later, why internal linking is important. But for now, I'll just change this. So yeah, one annoying thing about Webflow is if you reuse a collection list element, you can't just change the data source, even if you've done a bunch of design inside of the collection list element. You just have to individually disconnect every single field or element from their respective fields. So these are, again, the purple elements here. So now that I've disconnected the elements from their relevant fields, I can then switch the CMS collection that's being connected in this collection list element. So this one's for major cities, and I think we can just increase the size. Then select current city, and we can just select the name as the text for this link. And yeah, so that's a decent use of space now. And yeah, just gonna delete these. Now, one thing I've been doing that I don't recommend doing is I've just been giving these elements that I'm creating generic classes or the default one. So just be sure to rename them in order to stay organized as you develop the site. Okay, so now we've designed the collection template page for breeders, and it seems like it's missing something. So maybe we could just add a picture of the dog breed in the top left corner. So yeah, let's do that. So first off, I am just going to jump to the dog breeds collection, and then we can just add a custom field. I don't think it's necessary to go through the process of adding the field in Airtable and then importing again. I think we can just add it here. Because the process of manually adding all of the photos into Airtable will take just as long as it will adding to Webflow. So I'm just going to call this breed photo. Now we can get started retrieving some photos of different breeds. So first off, maybe let's grab a photo of a Bernese Mountain Dog. So in case you're unfamiliar with Pexels, it's a royalty-free stock images platform. So all of these photos are free to use on your website. So first off, I'll just select this one. It's a very, very cute one, might I add. Yeah, I think that's probably the best one, even though that one looks a little crazy. So rabid Bernese. So yeah, okay. Downloaded this one, and then if we just jump over to, well, first off, just be sure to save the new field. And if we just jump over to the breeds collection, so Bernese Mountain Dog, and then we can upload this photo from Pexels. I would also recommend decreasing the size of the photo, but I'm kind of just speeding through this. And okay, so we can save those changes, and maybe let's add one more dog photo. Or yeah, I think you'll get the point after this. So if I just add an image element here, and then drag this up, and then connect this image here. Okay, so there's something a little bit interesting here. So in my main breeders collection, the breeds, again, is a multi-reference field. So in order for us to reference the image from the breeds collection, we have to add a collection list element, since there can be multiple breeds that are being referenced here, as you can see here. So first off, I'll just add a collection list element, and then select breeds, then add a photo or image element here. And we can connect this to breed photo. And yeah, as you can see, the image of the Bernese Mountain Dog that we provided is appearing here. Then we're just going to also limit this to 1. So the Bernese Mountain Dog photo is no longer visible because Bernedoodle is actually the first in this reference list. But if we just jump over to another one, I'll probably go through the process of adding all of the photos of each individual dog. But if we just go to another Bernese Mountain Dog breeder, you'll see that it's being displayed here. Then we can style this up a bit. So instead of needing to have an image of a Bernese Mountain Dog on every single row in the breeders collection, this just allows us to pull the image from a single record in the dog breeds collection. And then if we add more details to the breeds collection, for example, average price, what are their grooming needs, etc., it will also do the same. It'll just dynamically pull in this for every breeder page where the breeder sells a Bernese Mountain Dog. Okay, so that is a good chunk of it that we've now completed. Now I think we can get started with the location-specific pages. where all of the breeders in a certain location are listed on their location page. So first off, I think we can just do this for the cities collection template page. And I'm actually just going to reuse the components from this page here. So this is the full directory of breeders where all of the breeders on our website are being listed, but this one will be filtered per city. So let's just reuse this component. And yeah, one thing maybe I want to do while this is kind of lacking data is actually making this more of a grid. So we can just increase the columns here and then just increase the minimum height. So yeah, that looks a bit better. So users can see more breeders at once. And yeah, I think this looks weird because of this. Okay, so now if we just jump back to the partners page, you can also just grab this top navigation for filtering. Just to move this up here. Okay. Then can get started. And then what I would do next is I would just go to the collection list element and go to the filter settings. And then I would just scroll down and select the multi-reference for major cities. So just remember this collection list element has breeders as the source. And then of course the kind of main breeders collection is referencing all of the other secondary collections like cities. So once that is done, or that didn't work, I think. So major cities contains current city, and then we're just going to click save. Then as you can see here, all of the breeders being listed are in California near Orange. So if we just go over to New York City now, you'll see that the breeders being listed here are different. And then if I was interested in doing this as well for the state/region page, I could just, again, copy and paste this component over. Okay, I guess I can't with that filter. So let's just remove it, copy this, and then I can just undo the change I just made, or not. Okay, there we go, we're good. So now if I just jump over to the regions page, I should now be able to paste this collection list in. So now I will just add a filter. So state equals current region, or no, okay, that was wrong. It should be, okay, yeah, I see what's happening. So we don't have any breeders in Minnesota yet. So if we just go to California now, all of the breeders in California will be listed here. Okay, so now I think we can start improving the SEO of these pages a little bit. So, but before doing that, we can maybe also repeat this process for the breeds page. So, okay, now I will just do this one more time for the breeders collection template page. So again, I can just temporarily remove this filter, copy this section here, and then just undo the filter that I just deleted. Yep, there it is, it's back. And then if I just jump over to the breeds collection template page, I can now paste in the collection list component, and then I can just add a filter. So breeds contains current dog breed. So now all of the Schnauzer breeders, love that name, Schnauzer, are being listed on the Schnauzer page. Then if we go to the Bernese Mountain Dog page, all of the Bernese Mountain Dog breeders are here. And then same thing, or no Afghan Hound breeders, but yeah, there's some for Chihuahuas. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. So we have a strong foundation here. Now let's get started improving the SEO a little bit for these pages. So adding H1s, meta descriptions, and then maybe improving the internal linking a bit. So I'll just show you what I would do. First of all, on this collection template page for cities. So first off, for my breweries project, if we just jump over to the cities page, what I ended up doing for the H1, just to ensure the city and state/province data could be dynamically loaded into the H1, is I ended up adding an embed code here and then just using custom HTML and then Webflow's add field functionality just to pull in the relevant CMS fields into the H1, because you can't do this from Webflow's native header elements. So you can just do the same thing for our cities collection template page. So I'll just drag this up here and then reuse the code from the breweries project. So for this one, we can just make it discover all breeders nearby. And then this will be the name of the city. And then, yeah, dog breeders nearby with puppies. So again, we're targeting the puppies keyword. Can also just include for sale, since I think that was a big part of it. And then move this over here and just make it near whatever the city is. So yeah. And then if we wanted to, I think we can connect this to the region/state. I guess not, though. So maybe that's something we can work on in our Airtable base. But for now, I'll just click save. And then as you can see, if we just jump over to another page here, you'll see that the city is being dynamically input into this H1 based on the city page. So now we can also get started adding a subdescription here. And then one other thing that we haven't really done yet is also optimizing the slugs of the cities pages to include our keyword. So for the brewery site, it's pretty basic. So it's just Penticton dash, so city dash province or state code. So for this project, I would actually like to include the keyword, so puppies and dog breeders in or near X city, and then including maybe the state as well. Now, what I ended up doing in order to generate these key SEO elements, so the slug and subheader for all of the cities in bulk, is I went over to Claude and then I just shared with it the ideal slug structure that I wanted, and also asked it to provide a quick 2 to 3 sentence subheader that is unique for each individual city page. And yeah, so what Claude ended up doing is providing a full CSV with all of the slugs and descriptions. Now, the process for updating existing CMS items in your CMS collection via the CSV import method is a bit different. So first off, we will actually just export the data from the collection we would like to update. And then I'm just actually going to import this data into Google Sheets. And as you can see now, all of these IDs from the Webflow CMS are now with our file. So next, we can just grab these CSVs from Claude. So just make sure all the data is correct and aligns well with here. Okay. So now I'll just open up a text editor again. And then just paste in the data from Claude. Just do the same for the second batch. Sometimes you just, again, have to prompt Claude to keep on going if it stops. And then, yeah, okay, so I'll just save this and then try importing it into the same Google Sheet. See what happens here. Okay, so that's looking good. So it's provided SEO optimized slugs here, and it's also provided a bunch of unique AI generated subheaders here. So now I will just copy all of the data from here and then in the slug column, and just paste it into the slug column from the CMS collection that we just exported. And then for the subheaders, we can actually just make this or move this over to here. Just delete these elements, and then we can download the CSV. Okay, now I will just import the CSV that I exported. Just drag it in here. And then I will just select update matching items and import remaining as new, since these are all existing CMS items that we would like to update. So first off, it's automatically connecting all of the fields to their relevant ones in Webflow. Then the one thing we will do is create a new field from the description field, and we can just call this something like subheader, and it can just be a text field. Okay, so now if we click import, and we can just also make sure this is all looking good in here in terms of the updates. So yeah, that's looking all right. Okay, so now I am importing all of the updates into here. I guess, yeah, it's fine if 3 didn't fully work out, but yeah, we can just update those later. But so as you can see, pretty much every city in this collection has a subdescription or subheader. And then if we just jump back to the collection template page for cities, and then go to this element dedicated to the subheader, connect it to the subheader field, you'll see that the unique subheader generated by Claude for each city is being listed here. Now we can also get started pulling in this subheader into the meta description. So it's best practices to have a title tag and meta description for every single page. So this is what gets displayed with your search listing right here. So yeah, we can just add a field and connect it to the subheader field. And since we added a meta description, we can also add a meta title. So that's this area here of the Google search listing. So again, try to include your keyword, and then we can just make it best dog breeders with puppies near, and then the location or city name. So that's how I would go about SEO optimizing different reference collection template pages. So I would repeat the same process, for example, for the regions collection template page, and then also do something pretty similar for the breeds page. So if we just jump over here, so yeah, you can just repeat the same process I showed you for all of the other pages, but for the breed page, maybe I would add an image element here to show the dog breed, and then just connect this element to the breed photo, and then yeah, go to Bernese. We can see it here. So yeah, I would probably restyle this to improve things a little bit. But yeah, you can follow this exact same process for every single collection template page for any collection that's being referenced in the main collection that you're actually building the directory for. So in our case, breeders, and then in the other example, breweries. Okay, so now I think I will show you how I would approach creating a... So I will just put some final touches on the website here. And yeah, so I'll just allow users to browse breeders. That'll be the main call to action. And then afterwards, I'll just touch on a few additional details here. So this is going to the partners page. This page should now be called breeders or all breeders. Okay, and then for this element here, could maybe just make it a collection list element. So I could just add one here. Then connect it to the breeds collection. And then we can just make this a grid element here from collection list. And then just make this 100%. Oh, looks like I'm in a grid right here. So yeah, I'll just move this up, and then we can just limit this to 3. So this can kind of be a popular breed section. So limit to only show 3. And then we can just drag in this component here for hero agency. And then we can just pull in the name of the dog breed. And we can just filter this for breed photo is set. So this will only be the Bernese Mountain Dog photo being displayed. But yeah, if I add in a few more, let's actually just do that. Okay, so I've added 3 dog breed photos. You can tell I like big dogs. So yeah, this kind of looks a bit weird because the sizes are a bit different. So just have to bear with me here. I sometimes get this wrong, but you can kind of play around with these settings here to just make sure it gets scaled down properly. Okay, so let's just make this cover. And then we can just make this max 300 pixels. Okay, so if we just play around with this further, you'll see that, okay, it's now looking a bit better, this element. Okay, so then if we just add a link block here, and then just put this element here into a link block, I think that should work. No? Okay, I see. So just move that down here, and then users should be able to navigate to different breed pages. So yeah, now we can just feature a few breeds on the homepage. And then yeah, kind of just mess around with everything else. Just delete these or hide these for now. Hide this testimonial area. Maybe we could also just add this component to the homepage. What did I do? Looks like I hid this, but yeah, if we just take this component, move it to the homepage, we can then show some featured breeders in an element like this. So maybe we can just move this out of the section, and then we can just limit this to, I don't know, 20 items, and then we can just add some sort of H2 here that says something like our breeders, and then just make this H2 again, and then we can just take this component or button, add it to the end of the container. Okay, so that's connected to a link. And then we can just, well, this looks a little bit strange, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. So we can just add the wide combo class that I was using before, and then we can just say see all. So yeah, the reason I'm showing you this is just I want to highlight how you can add internal navigation. First of all, just to improve user experience and make it easy for users to find what they are looking for. And then also Google likes it when you have good internal navigation structure. So you could also then add links to the different pages from the nav bar as well. And then, yeah, for this last button here, we can just direct the user to the all breeders page. Okay, and then I'll just change the title here. And yeah, I'm sure you can do better than that. Now, there is one problem that you might have noticed while I was developing my site with the content structure, especially on these collection template pages that are being referenced. So currently I have pages like this collection template page for cities that are targeting dog breeders in X location or puppies in X location. And that's good that we have this, right? But we're kind of missing out on this combo variation here of breed dog breeders in location. And I don't know if you remember or if you skipped through it, but during the keyword research part of the video, these were the most promising keywords. So yeah, that's a bit problematic. It's not like these are still bad keywords. Now, with Webflow, as far as I know, and let me know in the comments if there is a solution to this, there isn't really any way for Webflow to dynamically create folders based on the dynamic values that you are referencing. So for example, if we were interested in having a folder for, I don't know, Los Angeles, and then a list of Bernese mountain dog breeders, and then having another page like this for Seattle Bernese breeders, and then maybe for Los Angeles again, Great Pyrenees. Don't know how to spell that. Sorry. Yeah, this isn't really possible with Webflow. So this is one of the other limitations in addition to the CMS item limits. So there's kind of only really one way off the top of my head, or there's kind of two ways that we could go about still targeting these keywords. So the first is that if we are just on this page here for a city in California, what we could do is we could just have the full list of every breeder, and then we could just copy this collection list element and then paste it down below. So we have a duplicate. So just let me pull it up here in the navigator. So yeah, here's the second collection list element. So what we could do, and actually I'll just also do the same thing for this one, the one that's listing all of the breeders, but I could just then add a filter for breeds contains Bernese mountain dog. And then for this one, I could just add a filter for breeds equals Australian Shepherd and so on. So I could just repeat that process of creating different collection list elements for each dog breed that's being referenced. And then what I could also do is just add in an H2 that properly targets this. Actually, we could use the same approach here of adding another embed. So this one would be more dynamic. So this would be for discover all Bernie's, or we could just make it Bernie's mountain dog breeders with puppies near so-and-so. And then we could just do the same thing here for the second collection list. And then this one would be Australian Shepherds. I don't know if I'm spelling that right. Again. So yeah. And then you would just do it again and again for every single breed. And this could work. It wouldn't be as effective as creating individual pages, which is what I'm actually going to do next. But I'm kind of doing something similar for the breweries site. So if we just scroll down here, originally I was actually creating, or you can kind of see it here, I was creating individual pages for long tail variations of different locations. So dog-friendly breweries in Vancouver, and then breweries with patios, and so on. But I ended up discovering that these pages weren't really being indexed, so there was some keyword cannibalization issues, and this vastly improved as soon as I moved it to kind of an FAQ H3 section. So as you can see here, I just have this section where it says, what are some dog-friendly breweries in Vancouver, Canada, or British Columbia, and then it just lists them in the answer here. So that could work. It's just not going to be as effective. So I will actually kind of move ahead with creating a page for lists. So what I'm thinking of doing is to create a collection for list, and then the type of content that I'm thinking of creating in order to target these multi-variation long tail keywords is something like listicles, like Failery would create programmatically. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on how I will actually do this, because this is quite unique to the site I am building, and this isn't really a standard thing to do when building a directory. But I guess what I would actually do is I would just kind of create a new table here and then call it lists. And then I would basically just ask Claude to provide an entire list. So Bernie's mountain dog in Los Angeles, something like that. And then just reference the other collections from here. And then also find a way to reference this list from the dog breeders collection, so we can also just connect users to the different listicles from the dog breeders collection and also the cities collection. So we can link to the different listicles from the relevant dog breeders page and then also the other referenced pages, so city, breeds, etc. So yeah, and then I would kind of ask Claude to generate editorial content, so it's a bit longer and more in depth. So I will also provide a link in the description to the live version of my directory website, and then also a link to the read-only version of my Webflow project, just so you can see how I ended up building this listicle page. Okay, I think we now have ourselves a directory website. So now if we just publish, we can kind of see things in action. And of course, this is not perfect. There are many additional touches that I plan on adding to this website. But again, I don't want to bore you with that. This video is already pretty long. So yeah, so now if we just go to the live version, and then we can navigate to the individual breeds pages, but we can just go to the main breeders page. And as you can see, all of the breeders are being listed here. Then we can go to the profile page, open the website for individual breeders, and then we can navigate to cities pages and then see a list of breeders in a specific city. And if we just navigate to this one, Bernese Mountain Dog breeder, you can see the photo there. So yeah, there are a bunch of additional things that I'm planning on adding. So for example, in the breeds collection, I'll maybe add average price, grooming details that can then be kind of referenced into a dog breeder's page. So we could just kind of add a little FAQ section here. And yeah, then for the listicle pages, I'll maybe kind of add kind of some location specific details for breeders. But yeah, for example, kind of just highlighting in a section how Bernese Mountain Dogs deal with heat in the California summers or something along those lines that we can kind of add to our content. So yeah, then there are 2 additional apps that I just wanted to highlight that can really improve user experience and also SEO and also user engagement, so increasing the amount of users that come back to your website. So the first I kind of touched on earlier is JetBoost. So JetBoost will enable a bunch of kind of CMS power-ups such as search filtering, drop-down filtering, favoriting and upvoting, etc. So yeah, they're definitely worth checking out. They also have a map feature. So I think this might be useful for my dog breed pages. So for example, having a map of all of the Bernese Mountain Dog breeders all across North America. So definitely worth checking out. I will provide a link in the description. And another option for CMS filtering, you can check out FinSuite attributes. So all of their attributes are free. So things like a CMS slider, pagination, etc. Then another tool you could use is called SuperSparks. And full disclosure, I am the founder of SuperSparks. But basically with SuperSparks, you could enable reviews and ratings on your website and even integrate reviews with membership tools like MemberStack and Outseta. So when a user posts a review, profile details of your choosing, like profile image and name, like in this example here, gets displayed with their content. So you could kind of set up a Goodreads / letterbox style social reviews dynamic. So this is really powerful for increasing engagement and then also for SEO. So you're allowing users to generate content on your different pages. And Google usually loves it when you are consistently updating your content. And then also just for legitimacy. So for my niche, legitimacy of breeders is a huge factor that goes into people deciding on a breeder to choose. So could definitely add in a review section where users can share their experiences. And then there's also a feature from SuperSparks that allows users to create CMS items, so user-generated content. So this is commonly used for a forum, but this feature could also be useful for user-generated content and allowing users to submit new items to be added to your website instead of you needing to constantly source it and scrape it. So if we just take a look at this example, this is Atlas Obscura, and it gets over 4 million visits per month. And yeah, it's basically a collection of hidden gems or roadside attractions in different cities. And most of these are sourced from their community and different users. So as you can see here, we can see all the user profiles. And yeah, as you can see, this user has provided a bunch of different hidden gems and attractions from all around the world. So that's another layer to this that you could enable. But a good example of this would be my breweries website. So if we just go to a breweries page, you can see there are a bunch of reviews being posted for different breweries, and then users can even reply to other reviews. And then another cool example of this is Travel Baseball World. So this is a directory of resources for youth baseball players in the United States. So yeah, you can just take a look at this page for trainers and just take a look at this. You'll find a bunch of reviews, and then there's also a dedicated forum section. Okay, so after I finish building out this directory website, I can probably get started launching the website. So there are a few things on the checklist that I would kind of go through. So first off, I would just connect the domain that I bought earlier in the video to my Webflow project. So yeah, it can be done from the publishing section of the Webflow project settings. And then, yeah, you would have to also upgrade to a CMS plan in Webflow. So it's, yeah, this one here, $23 per month annually, and then $29 a month monthly. And then another thing I forgot to do is generate a logo. So I still kind of have the logo from the template here for Dovetail. And I don't think that's a great name for a dog breeders community. So what I can use is actually Midjourney just to generate a logo. And okay, let's see what Midjourney comes up with for a logo. Okay, yeah, I mean, this could just work to start out with. I would just like it to match up with the color scheme. I mean, it kind of does here, but anyways, you can keep on prompting Midjourney to adapt and use something as a starting point. I mean, this isn't bad either, just need to remove the dark background. Okay, so yeah, I can maybe just download this one to start and then replace this image with the one that I just downloaded. Okay, it looks a bit weird because it has a white background and hasn't been cropped. You could ask Midjourney to do that, but yeah, that's how you would essentially change the logo. So yeah, I'll work on that. If you go to your site settings, there are a few things in the SEO checklist that you should follow before launching your website. So first off, I would actually connect a Google Analytics account to my website before launching. And then also just make sure that your sitemap functionality is switched on. So it's not showing me this here, but I can show you on another site. So I'll show you just on the brewery site. So if you just go to the SEO section, you can switch on this. So this is pretty important. So your website is regularly submitting to Google your sitemap. And then once you do that, if you just jump over to publishing, there's a bunch of advanced publishing options that I recommend switching on. So switching on Minify, HTML, CSS, JS. And then I haven't really looked into these ones. I think a few of these are new. So do some research into these and whether they're necessary for your directory site. Okay, so once all of that is done, you can publish to your production domain. So just check this box, click publish, and then yeah, your site will be live for the entire world to see. So after doing this, the work's not done yet. So I also recommend creating an account in Google Search Console, so search.google.com. And then what I would also do is I would just connect your website to Search Console and then go to Sitemaps. And Google should automatically detect it from Webflow, but you can also just add your sitemap manually here. But yeah, it doesn't hurt to paste in a link to the inspect bar here and then request Google to index for the first time just to speed up the process of Google recognizing your site. So this is where you'll be able to kind of look into any issues that you might have with your pages. So for example, why certain pages aren't being indexed, and then you can kind of address these issues one by one. So yeah, and this is also where you can see all of the analytics. So now that your site's live, the next steps would be to grow your directory. So it might take a few months for you to start getting SEO traffic and really for that SEO engine to start building up steam. But there's a few things you can do in the meantime. I mean, you don't have to be completely reliant on SEO. You could add a social media layer to your website. So that's another way you can increase traffic to your website. So you don't just have to be reliant on SEO. But SEO is really kind of the most passive method. But the best thing you can really do to improve your SEO is start building backlinks. But there's a few other things. You can add more pages of content, add even more content to your existing pages. So that's something I'm planning on doing, for example, with my dog breeders website. But building backlinks is kind of the tricky part. So really, it just kind of requires a lot of effort and elbow grease. So the most powerful backlink is usually if your website is hyperlinked in a blog or long form piece of content. And then I think it's important to understand the differences between follow and do follow backlinks. So it's not like you can just post your website a million times on a platform like Reddit, because Reddit has the ability to auto detect links on its user generated content, and then it will add a no follow tag to the link that you post. And this won't really give you a lot of SEO juice and increase your domain authority. So you want do follow links. So you can usually just check the HTML of a website to get an understanding if they offer do follow links. So if there's nothing here that says no follow, you should usually be good. So yeah, it kind of will just require you to reach out potentially to a few different blog publications to see if they want to collaborate. You can offer to write a guest post for them. So it can be a win-win. Some people aren't really into allowing other people to write articles on their website, but if they kind of want to save time, it can be super helpful for them. But yeah, there are a few hacks that I'll give you quickly. So the first is if you just go to Twitter, this account here, Connor Schaller, has provided a bunch of sneaky backlinks. So these are kind of methods you can use to improve your SEO. So if you just search sneaky backlink, you might be able to find a bunch of the previous ones that he posted. So definitely look into that. Another interesting one is to add statistics that can act as a link magnet to your website. So I will show you an example quickly for my brewery site. So if we just go to the page for Victoria, by adding this simple, well, it's not here. Oh yeah, here. By adding this simple section here where it says how many breweries are there in Victoria, British Columbia. So just an FAQ section and then providing an answer here. Basically, our website started appearing in search results for this specific search term. And as a result, many different publications, some with pretty high domain authority, started referencing our website just for that statistic. So you can see an example here where it just says Colorado is also renowned for its breweries with over 80 in Denver. And it's just referencing our website where we clarify this in this FAQ section. So nowadays, AI tools are super powerful for acquiring statistics and doing deep research, especially using tools like ChatGPT's premium plan, and then also using Perplexity. You can gather a wide range of statistics for your directory site that can, basically, again, act as a lead magnet similar to what I did for the brewery's website. So, for example, for the dog breeders website, I might kind of look into something like how popular certain dog breeds are becoming in different parts of the US. So if someone searches something similar, our website might appear for that, and other websites might end up referencing our website in their content via a backlink. And then another super powerful method that might be a little bit tricky for directories is submitting your directory to a directory. So yeah, many directories just allow you to submit a form or even email them just to ask to be listed on their websites. So here's one that SuperSparks is listed on. I just emailed the owner. So this is another good way of getting do follow backlinks. Sometimes you have to pay for them. But I know that there are some directories listing directories that are out there that you can potentially submit your directory website to. It's a very, very Inception-like. So yeah, definitely look into that. And yeah, so I will provide a link in the description that goes into more detail on how to build backlinks. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, backlinks and domain authority aren't the sole factor in determining how high your pages rank on Google. Now, when you're just getting your site off the ground, a good way of improving your domain authority to Google, especially with this kind of cold start problem where you don't have any backlinks, is to have good internal linking. So if we just take a look at the breweries project, you'll see here that I'm linking to every single city and province page from pretty much every page of the website. So another thing I'm doing is including this search bar in the nav bar. So this is on every single page of the site, and basically this allows users to navigate to any city page. So that's a bunch of internal links to all of the city pages, in addition to the ones coming from the collection list elements for the breweries listings. And then also we have these breadcrumbs here. So I can just show you a quick example. So I've kind of already done this on the breeders page by adding a collection list for all of the cities that are connected to this breeder or near this breeder. So what we could also do is just add maybe a section here for breadcrumbs. So that never hurts. And then I'll just add a couple of text links here. So this will just be connected to the relevant country, so name, and then users will be able to navigate to the country. And again, can just make this look more like a link, making it underlined, and then just adding kind of a green here, and then can just add another element for the state, and add the name here, and then can just do the same for maybe the first. Well, let's just keep this empty for now. So just include the state while we have the nearby cities here. And then we can just add another text link into this div for the kind of separator. So we can just make it like this for now. And then yeah, drag that up here, and then just add a little bit of left margin. Just give this a different class. Combo class. And yeah. So there you have it. You have basic breadcrumbs on your pages. So you can repeat this process for any other page. So for example, adding this element to the cities page, just adding it up here. Well, that's not going to work because it's not connected, but yeah, you would just repeat that same process here. So you would just add breadcrumbs above the H1. Or you could really go all out and just add a footer section with kind of links to every single page of your website, just to make it easier for Google to crawl your website. So I think this is one of the reasons why my brewery site did so well, is strong internal linking. But at the end of the day, backlinks and internal linkings are kind of just factors into how Google ranks your pages. But the biggest goal of yours should be to provide valuable content, because Google has this magic ability to understand how valuable your content is to users going to your website. So there's a bunch of things that they probably take into account. So time on website, bounce rate, and return rate. So those should all be kind of metrics that you try to optimize for. But yeah, nobody knows for sure what the Google algorithm is. So yeah, just because you have a low domain authority doesn't mean you won't rank high on Google. So for example, for my brewery site, for certain cities, I was ranking ahead of TripAdvisor and Yelp for breweries related keywords. And I still am for a few cities. So really, if you provide valuable content and content in your directory that is focused towards your niche, you have a good shot at ranking ahead of some SEO juggernauts, even if your domain authority is pretty low from the get-go. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to highlight in this video. So I still have a bit of work to do before this goes live. So yeah, be sure to leave a comment if you have any questions. And yeah, be sure to subscribe if you would like to follow along with my journey building this directory website. I will probably post another couple of shorter progress videos just showing you how the website is doing. And yeah, also I'll probably make more content about building directories and other no-code projects. So yeah, thanks again for watching and take care.